The live stream will begin shortly. Please note that RapidVisa is not a law firm and is not licensed to practice law in any state. The hosts of the show are not attorneys. RapidVisa is a document preparation firm, licensed and bonded in the state of Nevada. We will do our best to answer informational questions during the stream based on our experience in helping tens of thousands of customers successfully apply for their immigration petitions. However, if you need legal advice, we advise you to seek assistance from an attorney. Please post your questions in the comments section during the stream for a chance to win a $100 RapidVisa credit towards a future service. Now, enjoy the show.
Welcome to another edition of RapidVisa Live, broadcasting from a deserted Las Vegas where we have tumbleweeds on Las Vegas Boulevard. We're streaming live on YouTube and Facebook simultaneously. Get ready to ask your questions, and remember that RapidVisa is not a law firm. We don't give legal advice or legal representation, and none of our employees are attorneys. However, we have done over 58,000 of these family type petitions and others, and we're happy to share what we do know with you. Okay, as we've been doing for a while now, we're going to give you a chance to win a $100 credit towards a RapidVisa service just by answering a question or asking a question or leaving a comment. If you don't have a question, just put in your name and say you'd like to be entered in the drawing, and then we'll draw somebody at the end randomly, and we'll make that announcement at the end of this broadcast. If you're going to leave us a question, please make it pretty thorough. Many times we get questions where there's just not quite enough information for us to give you information about it. So this is our first show since the coronavirus pandemic was declared, and so we're expecting a lot of questions probably on that topic, and we're going to try to cover some of that up front. But just keep in mind that for all of us, RapidVisa, the government, and all of you, there are still a lot of unknowns. So we'll do our best to tell you what we know at this moment, with the understanding that things could change rapidly and continue to change rapidly. Pam?
Thank you, Ben. RapidVisa's operational status during coronavirus pandemic. We want to make you aware that during this crisis, all of our online services are still operational. That includes phone and chat support. But please be aware that hold times and wait times are naturally longer than usual due to the fact that we're down to about half staff due to lockdowns. We asked for extra patience while we do our best to serve our customers with a high level of support throughout the crisis. All of our offices are currently closed due to the public at this time due to lockdowns. However, one benefit of us being an online company is that there's never a need to visit our offices. Everything can be done online and over the phone.
Okay, so on to the USCIS and State Department's operational status. There's a lot going on there to discuss. The good news is that the USCIS is still receiving and processing paperwork. So if you have a petition to mail in, we're mailing them every day here from our office in Las Vegas. So they're still accepting them, and it's actually a great time to get your petition in and get in the queue. So while some things are not happening right now, what is happening is they're still accepting petitions. So if you're thinking about filing, if you're in the process, or even if you haven't started yet, you can still do that. We see people having a few struggles maybe gathering some of those personal documents you need, but when it comes time to submit it to us or the CIS, both of those are still working as usual. The USCIS announced flexibility to present required signatures in a COVID national emergency, so they are accepting scanned signatures in many cases. And then they've announced some RFE flexibility. So basically what this means, if you received a request for evidence, you'll have during this period, you'll have another 60 days to reply to that before it will be considered that you didn't respond. So a little more time there. And I'm skimming through some of this stuff because some of it's very detailed. Obviously, if you have questions, you can give us a call or check the COVID page on our website. We got a link right at the top, and we link to the direct USCIS or State Department notifications where you can read the fine print of some of these things. But the good news, the main thing you know, is you can still submit a petition. Now, the bad news is USCIS has suspended the in-person services. So if you had an interview or you're trying to do an InfoPass appointment or something, you're not going to be able to do that right now. and at least until about June 4th. But again, things are in flux. That could always be extended. We don't know. And the Department of State, which runs the embassies, of course, they have also suspended the routine services, which includes interviews. So you can't do an interview at a U.S. embassy overseas right now. But again, that's a very different thing than submitting your petition. You still send your petition in. You're just going to be delayed. If you were close to having your appointment or you already had an appointment scheduled, all of that stuff is going to be delayed. And in fact, you would have been notified by now if you had an appointment in the last month or next month, or if you already had a scheduled appointment in embassy, by now you should have received notification that that'll be rescheduled. So you will be rescheduled. If you're at that part of the process, your petition has not been canceled. It's still going to happen. There's just going to be a delay. And of course, now there's a travel ban, which also impacts everybody as far as, impacts everybody who's trying to travel. But obviously, if you're trying to process an immigration benefit and you needed to travel to do that, not being able to travel, of course, is going to stop you from processing that piece of the puzzle. Okay, so again, check out our website, rapidvisa.com/coronavirus, or just go to rapidvisa.com, look at the top, there's a link, and we'll get you to where we have more detailed. I'm skimming through things fairly fast because we have a lot of people waiting today, and so we want to get to your questions. And so with that, I'll say either call us or check out our page, or you can always go directly to USCIS.gov and you find a lot of good information there. Click on, at the top, there's a news link, and if you click that, they list all in detail the things that I've been talking about. Pam?
On another news, President Trump's immigration ban. On April 22, 2020, President Trump signed an executive order temporarily banning certain immigrant visas. The good news is that this ban will not affect most Rapid Visa customers. This ban does not apply to K-1 visas, CR1, IR1 spousal visas with U.S. citizen sponsors, CR2, IR2 child visas, adjustment of status, removal of conditions, naturalizations, and tourist visas. The ban, however, does affect the spousal visas and minor children where the sponsor is a green card holder, and to parent visas. It also applies to several other visa types that Rapid Visa doesn't assist with, such as the visa lottery and some work visas. The ban is supposed to be for 60 days, but may be extended as we get closer to that date. So even if you are affected by this ban, it's still a good idea to get your paperwork in, because with the delays we are facing nowadays, 60 days isn't really that bad. And the ban only applies to the actual end of the process. So you should still be fine going through the initial USCIS phase. No need to delay yourself longer than normal. If you have any question about that, and give us a call at 800-872-1458.
Okay, so bottom line, I would say is that right now a lot of things are in flux and some petition types are put on hold, but we do expect, and it is even announced, that these things are temporary. It doesn't appear to really be any realistic chance that this will go on for a very long period of time. There's no appetite in Congress on either side of the aisle to eliminate immigration, some of the rhetoric you hear. So what we say to people when we get a lot of calls about it is, look, this is temporary. We're all going to experience various levels of disruption from this coronavirus, not just in immigration, but in all aspects of our life. And so the immigration process is going to be no different. There will be some disruptions. It was already a kind of a complicated, frustrating, drawn out process to get through it. And this is going to add a little more complication, frustration, and time, unfortunately. But as we always say, if you're persistent and you're careful, and especially if you use a competent company like RapidVisa or others, if you're getting help, you're going to get through this. And so it's just going to take a little more patience. Again, we're all being impacted around the world by this virus. And so it's kind of reasonable to understand that the immigration process will be impacted too. But if you need to process a visa, it's still going to happen. It's just probably going to take longer, more frustration to get it done. But don't give up, and we'll get you through it if you're using our service. Okay, some news, Rapid Visa type news. We are now processing adjustment of status for parents. And what that is we've always done helped you with a process where your parent is in another country. Let's say mom's in Spain and you want to bring mom here. That's an IR5 parent visa. We've always done that. And what we've now added the ability to do in our software is if your parent is already in the United States legally, say on a tourist visa or visa waiver program or something else, and they just want to stay here without leaving and adjust their status to a parent visa, we can now process that for you. So it's something we haven't done in the past, and we're happy to add that. A lot of parents are already here and decide to adjust status. So if your parent has arrived here legally and doesn't have any other, immigration type issues, then it's generally going to be possible for them to stay and convert. Now, you have to be a U.S. citizen to do this for your parent. A green card holder can't do it, and you have to be 21 years or older. And those are kind of the basic requirements, and there are still financial requirements and all of that. But bottom line is we can help you with that. If mom, dad, or both of them are here in the U.S. and they entered legally and they would now like to stay and become immigrants and receive a green card, that is something we can help you with.
Okay, we have a question from Trace Henson, who is the most impacted by the travel restriction as a client of RapidVisa. Yeah, I think I have already read this through one of our news.
Who's the most impacted?
Yeah.
Trace Henson.
The travel restriction, the immigration ban.
Do they mean what category? Like parent visas are certainly impacted.
Parent
right?
visas.
Yeah, right now you cannot do a parent visa if you're in another country. Now, if your parent's in the U.S. legally, you can do an adjustment status. But let's say your parent's in another country and wants to come here, that's not going to be possible right now. Also,
green card
spouses
holders.
or children of a green card.
Yes.
So if you're a green card holder and you want to bring a wife or a child here, that is also on hold for the 60 days. But it's still going to happen, and it would still be a good time to start the process because it'll take you a while to gather your documents anyway before they can be filed. So it doesn't mean you can't start the process, but none of those visas are going to be issued until after this ban, which right now is set for 60 days. Okay, William McCarthy asks, for an IR1 visa, can petitioning spouse income carry the beneficiary spouse, the new public wife rules? Oh yeah, so what William's asking is, can the petitioner's income work? And the answer is yes. Of course, it's not required that the alien work. They're just asking questions about the alien's work history and so on. What they're trying to determine is there a likelihood that the alien will become a public charge, meaning dependent on public benefits, at some time in the future. But there is no requirement still that the alien have any income at all. It's fine if the sponsor has enough income or can get a joint sponsor. So yes, it says my wife's a student, has no income. That's completely fine. And in fact, that is the normal case. It's actually very unusual that the aliens have income that's going to continue when they come here. So yeah, absolutely. Don't worry about that. There is a lot of complication added with the public rule, but that basic fact has not changed, that it is not required that the alien have income. Okay, Pam, I'll let you take the next one.
Next question is from Christian. My wife and I are Danish citizens and green card holders. We spend a lot of time out of the U.S. due to work, but we are never gone 180 days. However, now we are stranded due to the virus. Are we going to lose our green cards if we can't get back to the U.S. before the 180 days, even though it's out of our control? No, so far there is no extension or any statement from the government yet, while you may be subject to more scrutiny at the port of entry as an applicant seeking admission, because remember, the public charge rule is still in effect. But you will not be likely to be denied admission, especially if the reason for not traveling back within 180 days was due to the COVID-19 restriction. So we suggest you give evidence of U.S. ties for re-entry, as well as evidence that causes the delay.
Right, we have seen in things like the extension of RFEs and the automatic rescheduling of appointments thing, we have seen that the government appears to intend to be flexible and to recognize the hardships. So while we haven't seen this specific question addressed, I don't think you're going to have any trouble. If it's not your fault that you can't get back because of the ban and airlines aren't flying and so on. Okay, Aquana asks, okay, how about the IRS office? Most of us can't get our transcripts. Most of the financial accounts we have to use will not process on the website. People have used alternative income documents, hoping to be document qualified. Okay, so what that's related to is the getting your IRS transcripts to show your past earning. And normally that's something you can just do online, but apparently people are having a little problem with that. And so I guess she's asking, can you use alternative documents? You know, prior to the recent public charge rules, it was always okay to use your copies of your tax return and W-2s to show your previous income. Now they're asking for the IRS transcripts, which of course are more, I guess I would say more authoritative, right? And so we haven't, again, seen any specific ruling that says if you can't get it. I would keep trying to get the transcript. You can do it online. You know, you don't need to go to an IRS office. You never have needed to go to an IRS office to get a transcript. That's something you do online. So if you're online trying to get it and having trouble, I would just keep trying, and surely that'll open up. But generally, you just order it. For years, it's been that you just go online. There's no cost. You request it, and in a couple of weeks, it shows up. So that's the way you get your transcripts. The way you always got your transcripts. It's never been the case where you go down to the IRS office and they gave you one. I don't know if that's even possible. Maybe it was, but what I do know is that we've always had people go online. I've done it myself personally. It's a pretty simple process. So if you don't see that there on irs.gov, give us a call. We can point you in the right way. And we do have some links on our site too, but you can request those online. So if you had a problem, maybe there was a temporary glitch at that moment or whatever, but I would expect that would get corrected very quickly, since that's a very popular request.
Yeah, so we have received a feedback from a lot of our customers. They're having trouble. It seems to be like a technical issue with the IRS website. So what we did was to just ask them to provide an explanation and a screenshot of that request from their computer, and yeah, along with their 1040 and W-2s, and that seems to be working fine.
Great.
So next question is from Ahmed Hegazi. Hi, I-130 was approved for my sister, and the case was sent to NVC. They said NVC will send a welcome letter. The priority date is November 2011. What this means? Okay, so yeah, so if you're petitioning for a sister, normally it will take longer than petitioning other members of the family, such as your child or your parent. And especially now, because all walk-ins services are temporarily closed. We even have online submissions that we submitted back in January. We haven't received any feedback from NVC yet, so they're not approving, but they're rejecting documents. So there is actually, like, the delay is longer now, but most especially if you're petitioning for a sibling. So that is pretty normal.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, what that priority date means is, if you have a priority date of 2011, you know, you go online to USCIS.gov, and we can provide the exact, a little better link, but you go online, and I'm sorry, it's on the State Department. So you look for the priority dates, and they'll tell you the dates basically that they're processing now, right? So they may say for a sibling, the waits are always very long, especially if it's like Mexico or Philippines or China or some of the more popular immigrant countries. So the priority date they'll show on their online will be the date that they're processing right now. So for example, right now they might be processing, depending on your country, maybe they're processing I-130 petitions or visas from 2009. And if your priority date is 2011, then that roughly means you still have about 2 years to wait. I say roughly because it ebbs and flows with how many are submitted. But there are quotas per country per year, and so many countries have a backlog. And so go look at the priority date for whatever category you submitted, and what you'll find is it's probably before 2011. Unfortunately, for some of them, it's even in the 90s still. And so if it said 2005, they're working on 2005 now, and you got a 2011 priority date, means you still have about 6 years to wait. So that's what that means. It's a little more complicated than it probably needs needs to be, but once you understand it, it's pretty straightforward. And if you want to give us a call, we can help you in a little more detail to figure that out. Okay, Meryl Jackson, what is the best visa for me and my wife since we've been married over 4 years? Well, we've been married over 4 years. You're gonna do IR1. It's called immediate relative category 1. If you were married less than 2 years, it would be a CR1. But they're really the same. The process is exactly the same. The only difference is if you've been married over 2 years, your wife is going to get a 10-year green card. Roughly referred to as a permanent green card, although it's really not permanent. It has to be reviewed in 10 years. Or if you're married less than 2 years, you get a 2-year green card, then you have to do a removal of conditions. So since you've been married 4 years, you will not have to do the removal of conditions, which is great. So apply for that. And did you say, can you go back to that question, scroll back up? Did it say but in the U.S. or not in the U.S.? I missed that part.
He does.
Doesn't say, okay.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming your wife is out of the U.S. You'll apply, use the primary form is the I-130, so you'll apply for an immigrant visa, and she'll get a 10-year green card. So it really works exactly the same no matter how long you've been married. The difference is under 2 years you're going to get a conditional green card. It has to be renewed in 2 years, and over 2 years you're going to get a 4-year green card.
The next question is from Nate Beckwith. Can my wife come visit me after restrictions while we are waiting for a green card visa? Or green card or visa. She has never been outside Colombia and would like to visit to the United States, even if only for 2 weeks. Would a tourist visa be available in this situation? Yeah, so the current immigration ban per the executive order by President Trump does not apply to non-immigrant visas, such as tourist visa. So yeah, your wife can definitely apply for tourist visa. Just make sure to gather all your documentation, your evidence, because the public charge will apply to non-immigrant visas as well. So but
yeah, there are two things going on right now though. While the tourist visas aren't banned by the executive order, the embassies currently are not doing interviews. Yes. So you have to do an interview to get a tourist visa. So you will have to wait till the embassies open back up. Mm-hmm. But other
she
than
can
that,
apply,
as soon as that happens, you can apply.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Richard is asking, my fiance is in South Africa. The embassy's already sent the paperwork to the embassy. My question is, since the government is in lockdown, obtaining birth certificates, police records, what is the process to follow? And are we at risk of losing progress? Well, the short answer is no, you're not going to be at risk of losing progress because they're not doing interviews anyway. And so what you're saying is you need to get those civil records, and you're having trouble with that. That's a common thing we're hearing right now is people can't go to the places they need to get birth certificates, divorce certificates, and so on. So everything's on hold right now. Normally when the USCIS approves a petition, they give it a expiration date of 4 months typically, and expecting that within that 4 months you'll get your interview. But they also routinely extend that when they know the delays on their end. Even before this happened, they would routinely extend that 120-day expiration date. And we expect that will happen. Now, there hasn't been specific guidance, but I can't imagine any circumstance where they wholesale start denying all petitions because they went over the 4 months when in fact it was their fault because they closed the embassy. So I don't think you have anything to worry about there. It is routine practice for them to extend, and we're already seeing, like we mentioned earlier, we're already seeing that they are understanding by doing things like extending RFE times and indicating that they'll reschedule appointments that they had to cancel and so on. So we're already seeing that they're going to be flexible in these things. And so I think you just don't need to worry about it. Just keep doing what you can as far as getting those documents. Maybe you can do it through the mail or online or something instead of in person. So I would not give up on that. And when things open up, go as quickly as you can and continue the process.
Okay, our next question is from Ryan Rivera. Are K-1 visas part of the President Trump's 2-month suspension? Oh, okay. So as we discussed earlier, the 60-day immigration ban only applies to, does not affect to K-1 visas, to tourist visas, to spousal visas, and child, or if you petition for your child if you're a U.S. citizen. But it only applies to immigrant if you're applying for immigrant benefits and the sponsor is a green card holder and you're applying for your spouse or your child.
Right, and so this is another area where information has been very thin. There's nothing we've been able to find from the government that specifically says K-1s are banned or not banned, but what the executive order said was that non-immigrant visas are not affected. The K-1 is a non-immigrant visa. That's not ambiguous. And it also says spouses are exempt, and while a K-1 is not a spouse, that certainly is the intent of a K-1. And we also called the USCIS, and they confirmed to us that they're not banned. Now, that doesn't mean somebody else might make an interpretation later. Again, we're in a flexible situation, but what I can tell you is we're filing them every day, and they're accepting them. So all appearances are, and what the CIS is telling us, although that's verbally at the call center, which is suspect sometimes, is that the K-1s are not impacted. Okay, Jake. Hi, do you have any idea when the Philippines embassy will start doing K-1 interviews? Wow, that's the big question. So they stopped on the 20th of March, and we expect that based on what they said, that they will again start in June, around mid-June or so. But obviously that could be extended. So bottom line is no, we don't have any firm ideas. It could always be extended. I can tell you that the lockdown in the Philippines is very severe. It's nothing like here in the US. In fact, we probably wouldn't even tolerate it. There, you can't even come out of your house if you're under 21 or over 60, and you can't drive a private vehicle, and only company vehicles allowed on the road, and they got checkpoints between cities where they check your ID, and it's really draconian right now in the Philippines. In fact, in our office there, we have to go pick up all our employees and bring them to work because public transportation is all shut down. So you got two things going on. It's our State Department, the U.S. State Department, that shut down the embassy. So they would need to open up, which we're hoping will happen in June, mid-June or so. But on top of that, the restrictions would have to be also released within the Philippines before people will be able to move about and go to Manila to do an interview and all that. So I think we've got probably another 6 weeks or so. But again, that's just an estimate. And then once they do open up, of course, there's going to be a backlog of all the people. It's already a very busy embassy. It's the #1 embassy for fiancé visas. And now you're going to add a backlog on top of what was already very busy. So you'll want to really watch it closely. You make those appointments online. You probably want to be going there all the time to see when they start putting appointment slots in again. If you're using us, give us a call. We can help you with that. But that's unfortunately, that's the best answer I can give you.
Next question is from Michael Thomas. USCIS received our I-129F on February 3rd, and we got NOA 1. Or the receipt notice. How long until NOA 2? Well, normally, if you have filed your petition correctly, you did not receive any feedback from the government, such as RFEs and all those stuff, you will usually get your approval notice within 3 to 6 months, based on our experience, from the time you filed your petition. But yeah, it depends. It's a case-to-case basis. Just like as I said, if you filed it correctly, then you should be getting it within 6 months.
Right, and we are seeing a little indication that some of them are going a little quicker right now. And I don't know if that was just an anomaly at the beginning of this because people were holding off and submitting or something. But you still will get it. Things are still working normally at the CIS as far as sending out those approvals. Okay, Josephine asks, can affect my visa while the NIT will expire June 2nd due to COVID-19? Okay, similar to the previous question, these they usually have about 120-day expiration date on these USCIS approvals. So you have the USCIS approval, then you have to get the embassy approval, right? And the USCIS usually puts an expiration date of 120 days. But the State Department and CIS routinely extend those when the delays, they know that many times it takes a long time to get an embassy appointment. And so the bottom line is when the ball's in their court, they routinely extend those dates. When you're not showing up for an interview or whatever, yes, then you got a problem. And they'll cancel it and send it back. But as long as you've done, and they're not waiting on you, you've done everything you're supposed to do, they have always in the past routinely extended that date. And we expect that the same will happen now.
Next question is from Tanver Polish. Is NVC working now? I submitted my documents to NVC March 10. I didn't get any news. How long will I have to wait for the review? Well, if you check the guidelines on the Department of State, it says when you submit, from the time you submitted your documents, you will have to wait for 4 to 6 weeks for them to review your documents. But based on what we're seeing right now, we even have documents we submitted to NVC on January, and then we have not received any feedback yet. So that might be because they suspended the in-person services at consular and embassy abroad. Because normally when they approve your documents, you will get a notification for your interview date 1 to 2 weeks after the approval. So we have a feeling that might be the reason why they are not approving, but they are rejecting documents. If you upload documents that are incorrect or that's not legible, that is not according to their standards, they will reject the documents, but we're not seeing approval nowadays.
Yeah, everything's in flux right now. As we say, you still want to go ahead and submit, but you can't expect a delay in getting things done. They are still working, by the way, but like everybody else, they're probably working. There's probably a significant number of their staff members who are not coming in for various reasons,
Right.
because they're in a high-risk group or whatever. And so just expect everything to work slower, but nothing appears to completely stopped except for getting the embassy interview and getting the actual issuance of a visa to enter the country. Okay, Katie Marshall asks, are financial requirements going to be affected by layoffs? Well, again, we're in new territory here, but here's what we know. Unemployment income is not public benefits. That's earned income. Your employer pays unemployment taxes that go, theoretically the way it works is that goes into a fund, and that pays unemployment. So it's really something you earn, like Social Security. Of course, in this case, unemployment is also being supplemented by the federal government, but still, I can't see any situation where they're going to consider that public benefits, right? And so the bottom line is unemployment is temporary. So I could see a situation where they might say, are you furloughed temporarily, or has your business closed? In other words, are you going to have a job when all of this clears up? So that could be a legitimate question that you need to be prepared to account for. Like, if possible, if your employer says, look, as soon as things comes back, you'll have a job, maybe you could get a letter from your employer saying that you've worked there from such and such a date, you've been temporarily laid off, but they do anticipate hiring you back. That could help. Again, this is all new, and so how exactly things will be interpreted in this environment are hard to say. Under normal circumstances, pre-COVID, if you're on unemployment, yes, it could be a little problem in that while the unemployment income is certainly not a public benefit, that's something you earn, it does raise the question of, okay, we all know unemployment doesn't last forever, normally about 26 weeks. How are you going to earn after that? So that was before COVID. Now with COVID, we're hoping that everybody will show a little grace in these type of issues. But again, with it being so new, it's hard to know. But I would definitely check with your employer and see if there's any way they'd be willing. And they may not. They may think that obligates them to hiring you back, but maybe they could phrase it to say, as economic conditions return, we do anticipate rehiring, Miss Marshall, or whatever you can get certainly could help.
Next question is from Adele. I entered legally on a tourist visa through the border inspection. I got married within 90 days and overstayed in USA about 2 years. Will I get deported for applying the green card? Well, it is always okay to do an adjustment of status if you enter the US legally and marry a US citizen. It doesn't matter if they are on an expired tourist visa, even if the tourist visa has been expired for many years.
Okay. Jesus is Lord is asking, has the CR1 spousal visa been affected by the travel ban for Nigeria? Okay, so this predates the COVID. We had some countries added to the travel ban, which was the ban put in place by executive order from the president banning certain countries from entering the United States. So, having said that, yes, the CR1 spousal visa is affected, but they're still accepting them. So, the Nigeria is different than the other countries that were added to the ban in that the objection that the State Department or the U.S. government had with Nigeria was that the suspectability of the documents. And so Nigeria is working to correct that and hopefully get that lifted. And it is our feeling too that that will be relatively short-lived because there's a lot of immigration from Nigeria. And so what we're recommending to people who ask about Nigeria is, look, technically it is banned right now. We don't expect that to be long-term, but that's just our opinion and is subject to be wrong. And so we do have some people, after explaining that to them, that decide to go ahead and get in the queue, and the CIS is still accepting them. Although we certainly expect that right now you wouldn't be able to get a CR1 issued from the State Department. So, it's one of those things, it's hard to say. You might want to get in line now and get your petition in the queue in the case that Nigeria does get exempted from the ban, which is expected by most people. It's just the timing is unknown. And could you apply now and you pay your money, your $535 to apply, and wait 6-9 months to get to the end and have it denied because of the ban? Then you've lost that time and money. Absolutely, that could happen. If you're willing to take that risk, though, it may get you ahead of the line. I mean, it might take 9 months anyway. So maybe in 6 months they lift the ban and you're already in the queue. That's up to you to decide if you want to take that risk. Right now, though, the official word is Nigeria is on the banned list.
Next question is from Esther. Can unemployment count against me for the public charge rule? So as already discussed earlier, USCIS does not consider earned benefits as public benefits. Unemployment benefits are earned benefits just like Social Security or government pension and health care. So unemployment benefits are not in the list of public benefits that are subject to the public charge rule.
Okay, it looks like a follow-up question from Esther. Says, will receiving the stimulus payment count against me? No, obviously there's not been something that we've found, and we don't expect anything to be released by the government to specifically say, hey, your stimulus benefit will not count against you. But I don't see any chance that it ever would, because first off, you didn't ask for it, right? It just showed up in your bank account. It's not a public benefit in the traditional sense of the word public benefit, meaning means tested public benefit. So no, I don't see any chance that has any impact whatsoever.
Okay, next question is from from Ryan Rivera. My fiancée took her medical exam in January and then with her visa interview, and now since the U.S. Embassy in Manila is closed and don't know how long it will take to release her visa, will she have to take another medical exam after it expires in July? Now that would depend now on the U.S. Embassy. I suggest you call the embassy when they open. I think they are entertaining calls
I would think that they're going to just extend that. If they don't, it's going to just be create yet another backlog down at there's only one clinic where you can get those done in Philippines. So, based on everything we're seeing, I think they will extend it, but nothing's been published on it. That's just, having dealt with these agencies for over a decade and kind of understanding them to the extent that anybody can, I would say they'll extend that. Worst case, of course, is that she'd have to go back and do another medical exam, which would be unfortunate, but I doubt if that'll happen. If we do see anything released on that or any information on that, we'll put it on our COVID page, which again, rapidvisa.com, at the top of the page, there's a link that takes you to a page where you have information about coronavirus. And we'll put it there if we get any clarity on that. But right now, there's been no clarity, nothing released. Okay, Jaya asked, my husband's a U.S. citizen. I've lived in Pakistan. My husband said I would like to call you on a visit visa, and then he wanted to change my status for him. Is it easier way to call me? By call me, I think you mean to bring you, to summon you. Okay, so I think what you're asking here is your husband's a U.S. citizen and you're in Pakistan, and you're asking, can you come on a tourist visa and then do adjustment status? The simple answer is yes. We do those all the time. It's quite common. The longer, more complicated answer is technically, you're supposed to do the spousal visa while you remain in Pakistan. I mean, that's the way that you're technically supposed to do it. The intent of the tourist visa is supposed to be to come here and be a tourist, and they always care about what is your intent. But the bottom line is we do those every day with people here on tourist visa who adjust status. So the safest, most correct way to do this is to do a spousal visa, which is an I-130 petition, and then you wait there and you do an embassy interview there, and then you come to the U.S. So that's the most correct way to do it. But the way you're suggesting a tourist visa, people do that all the time. I'd say there's a little more risk involved in that, because I think there's a high likelihood your visa will be denied. I mean, if you go in to the embassy, unless you already have a visa, they're typically issued for 10 years. But if you do not already have a tourist visa and you're going to go apply for one first, you can't do any of that right now because everything's shut down, right? But once this is over, if you're going to go apply for a tourist visa, as soon as you indicate to them you have a husband in the U.S., they're probably going to deny your visa immediately. We see that happen a lot too. So you're probably not going to be able to pull this off. But if you already have a tourist visa, yeah, we do see people doing that. We'd recommend doing the regular spousal visa, but it can be done the other way. It's just a little riskier.
Another question from Easy Man. Can you break down the steps from when K1 is approved and we are married to when my fiancé can work and be a U.S. citizen? Okay, so when your K1 visa is, when the K1 visa is approved, your beneficiaries will be able to travel to the United States using the K1 visa. Upon her arrival in the United States, you have to get married within 90 days and file your adjustment of status. While you can also include the application for work permit while pending your adjustment of status. That way your fiancé will be able to receive the combo card, authorization to work. That way she can work while her adjustment status is pending. And so upon when she gets her green card, that would be, she could use that as her authorization to work. But she could only file for naturalization if she meets the eligibility, which normally if you're a U.S. citizen petitioner, she would be eligible to file naturalization after 3 years of being a legal resident.
Okay. Michael Dean says, while we're waiting on the CIS approval, can I obtain a tourist visa for an extended stay to the Philippines and travel there once the ban's lifted? The short answer is yes. You can always go to the Philippines, and, well, let me say this. You're waiting for the immigrant to come here. Nothing about your travel is restricted or will impact that case, right? So you could travel to the Philippines, travel anywhere you want. Usually the question we get is, while we're waiting, can my wife or fiance get a tourist visa and come to the U.S. for a visit? And that's usually not going to happen. They're typically not going to allow that. But you going there, yeah, that's actually quite common. A lot of people make visits to see their spouse or fiance, whatever it is, while they're waiting. And you don't need a visa in advance to travel to the Philippines. You just show up there and you're allowed to stay for 30 days. And you can even extend that beyond the 30 days if you want to. It is important, though, that you extend it. You don't want to be out of status in the Philippines. They do check you on the way out, unlike we do here in the U.S., and you will be fined and could even be banned from coming back. But yes, you can definitely go there, stay up to 30 days, no problem. They'll put a date in your passport when they stamp it. Be careful you don't overstay, and if you want to stay longer, extend. But I would expect that they're going to be shut down for a little while there, as I was saying in the earlier question. They're taking this whole lockdown a lot more serious in the Philippines, which is probably appropriate because it's such a densely packed country, just a small group of islands with about 105 million people. So they are, it may be a little while before you're able to go there, but yeah, as soon as you can, there's absolutely no problem with that.
Next question is from Jackson. My wife is in the U.S. and want to use a K3 visa. Is it better than the IR1 visa? Well, if your wife is currently in the U.S. and you are a U.S. citizen, she can always file for adjustment of status. That is more convenient if she is already in the U.S. K3 visas are now suspended.
Yeah, the K3s are really obsolete.
Yeah, obsolete.
You can always apply, but they'll just change it to an IR1 anyway.
Right.
And also know that for an IR1 or K3, either one, those cannot be done in the United States. So while you could technically apply while she's here, she would have to go back to her country to do the interview. So that's not the appropriate visa if she's in the United States legally already. Right. Then your only option is the adjustment status, unless she wants to go back to her country. Okay, Hazel asks, as USCIS locked down for now, my question is, do I need to repeat my medical? Yeah, we had that earlier. So the answer is we don't know with any certainty because nothing's been published on that yet. However, based on what we're seeing so far, we think that they'll probably go ahead and accept it and they'll extend it. But that's just our assumption based on what we're seeing, what we've seen over the last 11 years or so that we've been doing this. I would look for them to have a little grace in that area and extend that since it's not due to your fault. However, that could change. Something could be issued, and if it does, we'll certainly put it on our website on our coronavirus page. But for right now, first, there's nothing you can really do about it right now anyway, and so there's no action for you to take. But I would expect that they will still take them. That's going to be my guess based on 11 years of experience doing this. But I'm subject to be wrong, and we'll just wait to see what they say about it.
Next question is from Rob Bagley. Do you know if the NVC is going to review the documents any faster? I submitted her last document to be accepted on March 3 and still waiting to be accepted. Yeah, so as I said earlier, we have customers. We have several customers where we submitted their documents back in January, and they have not received any communication yet from the NVC. You will receive a communication from them if you submitted a wrong document. They will reject it. But based on our experience right now, they're not approving documents, and it may be because when they approve your documents, they will set you for an interview at the consular office or embassy, and currently the embassies and consular offices are closed for in-person services, so that might be the reason why they're not approving. But yeah, that is currently what is happening right now.
Okay, so we've had a lot of duplicate questions, so we're not going to really go through those all again. But what I would say is, if you've asked a question about the timing or the medical exam or some of those things, as soon as this live video ends, you'll be able to play back through it, and you might just look for those. But I'll kind of recap some of it now, and that is to say that the recent 60-day ban put in place by executive order from the president doesn't really change anything right now because all the embassies are closed anyway. However, it could happen that the embassies open before that 60 days, and then, of course, that would be relevant. And what that means to you is, if you're using our service, or if you're doing it in another way, but you're doing a spousal visa, it doesn't impact you. A minor child doesn't impact you. Where it really applies to you, the 60-day ban, if you're doing a family type visa, would be as if you were trying to petition a parent who is not currently in the United States. They will be subject to the ban for 60 days, or if you're doing an adult child. Now, if you have a parent who's already in the United States legally, then you can still petition them. So this doesn't impact anybody who's currently in the United States trying to adjust status. If that's your situation, if the alien is in the US legally and wants to adjust status, then no problem, it doesn't apply. You're good to go. With the slight hiccup that the USCIS is also not doing interviews, and typically in those cases you would get an interview. So you might be delayed, but you can certainly still apply, and we highly recommend that you apply, because when all this stuff clears up, we anticipate there's going to be a huge bump of people applying, and you want to get ahead of that queue if you can. So right now is a great time to apply, but expect that things will go slower than what already is a slow process. So that's the first thing I wanted to recap. The second is, for RapidVisa, we're still operating. We do have some staff who can't come to work for lockdown reasons or because they're in a high-risk group. So our service is a little slower than we'd like it to be and a little slower than normal, but we're still open 7 days a week to take your calls, chats, and messages. And our staff's doing a fantastic job of showing up here, and we're doing some distancing and all the things we can to keep everybody safe, but we are still open for business, and we're still receiving a lot of inquiries, and we're happy to help and do what we can. Just do understand that we're seeing a lot of uncertainty There have been some directives issued by the government, and we have listed those on our page, rapidvisa.com/coronavirus, or just go rapidvisa.com. There's a link at the very top, and that'll tell you the things we know for certain. Other things we're just kind of, anticipating what might happen based on what we've seen so far in our experience. But understand that everything's in flux. There could be an executive order tomorrow. Things could change minute by minute. So remember, any advice or information that we've given in this broadcast or that we give on our site, it could be outdated by tomorrow, and we'll try to keep that updated as much as we can. But obviously, if you're watching this as a recorded video and it was done, a week from now, everything could have changed. So right now, always, but especially right now, it's important to get timely information. USCIS.gov is always a great source. Our website, we try to keep updated during this pandemic, especially, is a good source. And then you can always give the CIS a call. I mean, it's important now to stay informed. Don't assume that anything you've heard or read a week ago, a month ago, certainly before the pandemic, applies right now, because right now a lot of things are changing. But one thing we have confidence in, after doing this, over 58,000 of these we've done, and we're in our 11th year now, is that people who are persistent and people who are honest and have the are qualified basically for a petition to bring their wife or their child or the parent or whatever, they always get it done. You will get it done. It's going to take a little extra patience right now. It's always taken a lot of patience. Now it's going to take a little more patience, and it's going to take a little more perseverance. But immigration to the United States is not going to stop. This country is founded on immigration. Despite the rhetoric you hear sometimes out of Washington, there is no appetite in the Congress to change the laws. And remember, the president can't change any law. Only Congress can do that. And so immigration is not going to stop. I'm very confident in saying that. So we're going to have a hiccup here with this pandemic, and that's going to give some people maybe an excuse to push back a little more on immigration than in the past, but it's still going to happen. Your loved one will still get here if they're otherwise qualified. It's just going to take a little more patience, a little more time, and you can still make it happen. And so my advice is don't give up. Now's not the time to sit back and wait. Now's the time to be even more aggressive about getting that petition done. Okay, so now let's get to our winner. We've been for a long time now trying to do this $100 credit when you leave a comment or just put your name in the comments. So our winner today is Michael D. Mefford. So we'll have your name. Contact us if you want, but we'll also have your name, and we'll have that credit for you whenever you decide you might want to use it. And once again, from the deserted, fabulous Las Vegas, which is still fabulous even though there's nobody down on the strip right now, we thank you for coming to talk to us, and keep an eye on our website. We do these videos only about once a month, but we are constantly, every time we get new information, we're updating. rapidvisa.com/coronavirus or rapidvisa.com, look at the top, click that link. Or of course, give us a call. We're still here 7 days a week. We ask for a little more patience, but we will answer your call. No call goes unanswered. You're going to get an answer. You just might need a little more patience waiting to get to that customer service representative, and then we'll do anything we can to help you. Thank you, everybody. And Pam would say thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next time.
All right, everybody, be safe, and hopefully next time we do this, we'll know a lot more about what's happening with immigration, and perhaps we'll have a lot more of this virus in the rearview mirror. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We apologize if we didn't have time to answer all your questions. However, you can always contact us by phone or chat to answer your questions. We want to remind you that RapidVisa is not a law firm and is not licensed to practice law in any state. The hosts of this show are not attorneys. RapidVisa is a document preparation firm licensed and bonded in the state of Nevada. If you need help with your immigration petition, check us out. We've helped over 30,000 customers from 180 countries apply successfully. Check out our testimonial library at rapidvisa.com, where we have over 1,000 photo testimonials from actual customers describing their immigration journey with RapidVisa. There's no cost or obligation to create your RapidVisa account. You can create your free account at rapidvisa.com/free. Be sure to like and follow us on Facebook to be notified of future live streams. Thank you, and see you next time.